Hello everybody, I'm Sherry Harris and I'm one of the pastors at Vestavia Hills Methodist, and today I'm leading our lesson in our most recent online Bible study, Scriptures from the Heart. Now our passage today is from Psalm 30. There are actually 150 psalms and they were all written to be used in worship. Even after all these centuries, we still use the Psalms in worship as Psalter readings. Now there are also different kinds of psalms: prayers for help, songs of praise, psalms of thanksgiving or trust, psalms of wisdom or instruction. There's even a few historical psalms. I love the Psalms for two reasons. Number one, the beauty of the language. It's just exquisite. And secondly, the realness and the rawness of the emotion you find in Psalms. Every human emotion is expressed in the book of Psalms. So let's listen together to our scripture today from the heart, Psalm 30, verse 11. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have taken off my sackcloth and clothed me with joy. Now, in today's verse, God is very obviously taken mourning and weeping and grief and transformed them into dancing in joy. Well, no wonder this is considered a psalm of thanksgiving. But there's one problem with our verse today. We do not live in a world filled with joy and dancing. And many times our lives, or the lives of those we love, are not that joyous either. At any given time, the people around us are enduring all kinds of hardships: loss of health, loss of job, loss of marriage, or even the loss of a loved one. And all of us have suffered in ways both big and small due to the worldwide pandemic and sheltering in place week after week after week. Even now, as we venture back out into the world slowly and safely, we still face an uncertain future. So dancing with joy, it may not seem like an appropriate response these days. But when we look at the world around us, we don't see any reasons for joy either. So many people have died, and there's still so much suffering in so many ways. Then, if things were not bad enough, our own country is deeply divided over our history of embedded racism, and sometimes that division has been expressed with violence. When you look around the world and our own country at the heart-rending suffering and that is so widespread, and at the injustice that is so prevalent, it may seem almost offensive to even talk about dancing with joy. But here's the thing. The Psalms were not written by people with picture-perfect lives, no. In fact, many are written by people crying out to God out of their own pain and suffering, which brings us to a very important question. So how could they dance and feel joyous in the midst of their pain? Well, the answer is simple but profound: God. Now, does God wave a magic wand over their lives and make everything perfect and take away their pain? No, but God suffers with us. God has entered our world and our lives so that no matter where we may be or whatever circumstances we may be facing, God is with us. We are not alone, and that is how our mourning can be turned into dancing, and we can move from sackcloth to joy. Even when our lives or the world seems to be falling apart in front of us, we have the knowledge and the sure and certain hope that there is no situation so terrible that God cannot find a way to redeem it. There is grace all around us. We just have to be watching for it. But let's just back up just for a moment. Is it insensitive to even talk about dancing with joy in the midst of suffering and injustice? Well, I think it depends on how you express it. Now, if it is expressed in a condescending way, like, I'm doing so well despite my pain, and by the way, you aren't, well, of course, that's inappropriate. However, if we express how God has brought joy back into our lives in a way that is sensitive to other people who are suffering, then our experience actually becomes a symbol of hope to them. It becomes a witness to God's loving presence, regardless of personal suffering, and that is no small thing. So as you read Psalm 30 with special attention to verse 11, here are some questions for you to consider. Number one, have you witnessed someone who showed joy in the midst of their own pain and suffering, and how did that affect your faith life? Number two, Do you believe that you could offer your thanksgiving in the same way that this psalm calls us to do, whether you are in joy or sadness, in light or in darkness? Number 3, do you have a psalm that holds very special meaning in your life? And if so, why? And finally, number 4, if someone asks you why reading the Psalms is important, what would you tell them? For your prayer focus, I would encourage you to read Psalm 30 aloud as a prayer of thanksgiving to the one who always surrounds us with strength and grace and love. I hope our scripture today blesses your life as it has mine.